Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, monimalu anji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. We would be so very happy and so very grateful if you could tell your family and friends all about the Reading with Your Kids podcast. And if you could subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Melanie Hall. She's returning to the show to celebrate a summer stroll in the city. Before we invite Melanie back into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Two Bicycles in Beijing, written by Teresa Robeson and illustrated by Junyi Wu. Do you love bikes and sightseeing? Then Two Bicycles in Beijing should be on the shelves of your family library. It's a fun and a heartwarming story of friendships lost and found, old and new, set in the beautiful city of Beijing on a glorious fall day. Travel to China from the comfort of your living room couch and learn a few new Mandarin words on the way. This book gives families a great opportunity to learn about a different culture and get a taste of a foreign language. You and your family are going to love Two Bicycles in Beijing. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is also brought to you by The Cryptid Catcher by Leah Fisher. Do you want to get your kids off their screens and into reading this summer? There's no better way to do that than by introducing them to a rollicking, fun adventure about the search for myths, monsters, legends, and beasts. Leah Fisher's The Cryptid Catcher explores the magical, mythical world of cryptids or legendary animals that might be real, like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and the Snarly Gaster. Join Clivo and the Myth Blasters as they travel the world searching for these hidden creatures, all while doing their best to outsmart the bad guys and save the world. The Cryptid Catcher received a star review from Booklist, is a Junior Library Guild Gold Standard selection, and it is perfect for adventurers aged 8 to 13. Get your copy today. The Cryptid Catcher by Leah Fisher. Joining us right now from beautiful upstate New York, our guest is returning to the Reading with Your Kids podcast to celebrate her brand new board book. It's gorgeous. It's called A Summer Stroll in the City. Please welcome back the illustrator, Melanie Hall. Hey, Melanie, how are you?
Hey, Jed. Thank you for having me again. It's so much fun talking with you. We share the enthusiasm.
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, we just returned home from the Florida Homeschool Convention, and we were fortunate enough to have a copy of Summer Stroll in the City at our booth, introducing it to families down there, and it was just delightful. So many families were just taken by the beautiful illustrations and the colors that are found in the book.
Thank you. Oh, that's right. Yes. In this book, which is a counting book, goes from 1 to 10, I use collage, paper collage, bright colors on every page, some texture, and it was really fun to do. Very detailed. Some of the images have a lot of brown stones from the city, the stone buildings that are in the city together in a row. There's people hanging out the windows. There's animals. There's flowers, butterflies. It's very lively.
Yeah, that is the great term. It is very lively, and I think it captures a lot of the energy that we would experience as we were taking a summer stroll in the city.
That's right. Yes. The children have the starring role, and they meet different neighbors, people from different backgrounds, and share, and that's the operative word, they share in the celebrations with their neighbors, with the other kids, and the adults. So, it's very animated and very joyful.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I love about it is it introduces kids and a lot of families to some of the many celebrations, some many holidays that we'll experience in a city. I know growing up in a city for me was really neat because in addition to celebrating Christmas and St. Patrick's Day, I also was, oftentimes celebrated the Italian feasts in the north end of Boston, or the Caribbean festival that brought out, families from the islands coming out to celebrate their Carnival, and holidays that I wouldn't have celebrated if I weren't living in the city.
Right, that's right. Yes, because there's a Chinese festival, the Dragon Boat Festival. So I show kids on boats, dragon boats in the river with the city skyline in the background. I have 4th of July with floats with like the eagle and a boat and a lot of flags flying, and a Greek festival showing kids dancing in the traditional Greek costume, and a young girl offering tarts, which are called bugatsa tarts. So the other fun thing about this book is that I show foods from different cultures. So the bugatsa tarts is one, and I also have a farmer's market because they're so popular now. So one of the spreads says yummy vegetables on wooden push carts, showing, the vegetables, and they're local. And a lot of the farmers markets in the city, they get their produce from where I live, the Hudson Valley. They get their vegetables, they get bread, meats. So that's interesting that you find that a little piece of my home in the city.
That is neat.
That's fun.
That is really neat. You've been creating this series. This is part of a series of books that you've created with Cathy Goldberg Fishman. How did you two team up?
Oh, we go way back. Actually, it was like Match.com with publishers. Because, the publishers bring together the illustrator and the author. We did a series of Jewish holiday books together, which are a couple of them are still in print. And this was back in the 90s. So we still get together, and we actually cooked up this project. We brainstormed till we came up with this series of 4 books. We have others that we're planning to do. So it's been a lot of fun, because she's such a good writer, and somehow it's easy to illustrate her words. There's a good chemistry there.
Interesting. So as an illustrator, you find that there are some authors' words that you just connect with easier than others.
That's right. Yes. And for some reason with her writings, I immediately, my head fills with visual images. And it's the way she writes. There's a lot of sensory descriptions in it. So I get to use my bright colors. I get to use people dancing and leaping and walking and striding, and because it's in her writing. I see it.
Yeah.
And animals.
I'm curious, do you remember the kind of first time you were aware of that connection, and what was, if you can remember, what was that like when you just kind of said, wow, this is different. I'm getting a different vibe from this manuscript.
Oh, that's a good question. Our first book together was on Passover, and yes, I found it very charming the way she wrote. So as I was reading over her words and doing sketches to go with it, it just seemed to flow out. It just like it was very easy to put together the images for the book. Mm-hmm. Her descriptions of the rituals, she mentions the objects that are used, the Torah scrolls, people wearing prayer shawls, the Passover table with all the different ritual objects on it for Passover. I could see it clearly in my head. So, and that's what it was. There was a clarity to it. And as I said, a charm to her writing. So it just, it just clicked.
That's neat. I love those moments in life where things just click. You and I were chatting before we started that I do educational magic shows, and there are some days when you get up on stage and you have an audience and it's like, I'm performing magic, but this experience is really magical because I just feel a connection with every single person in this room, and it doesn't happen all the time.
Oh, that's lovely. Yes. Sometimes I get chills, because I feel I'm in the groove. Mm-hmm. So when I'm doing something, I say, oh yeah, this is working. The ideas come together and I find the right images, like, whoa, I get chills. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a sign. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah. Now you were mentioning that the art in Summer Stroll in the City it's different. It's not, you didn't paint these illustrations, correct?
Right, that's right. It was very laborious, but oh, was it fun? It was almost like playing with paper dolls. I felt I was setting up a stage set. Mm-hmm. Each scene, it seemed to come alive when it was all it's so detailed, and I cut every image out with an X-Acto blade, which is a kind of sharp knife, and glued it down. But when I was done, I went, oh my God, it came alive. The children, the characters, where they were, the settings, the city, it was just so vivid. Yeah. So it was a good way to work. But my next book, I want to work on a different style, just to take a little break from it.
Yeah. Was it the idea to do that cut paper art? Was that an impulse or an inspiration? Was it something that you and Cathy and the publisher had spoken about before you started the project?
Oh, actually, when we started brainstorming, it was actually our agent that suggested, oh, why don't you try collage with this? Because she had always liked my collages. So, well, that's a good idea. So it worked, and the publisher really liked the work I was producing, so he encouraged it. So yeah, it all came together.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What other
my drawers are full of all kinds of papers. I have 2 drawers full of papers. One is cool colors, like blue, green, purple. Another drawer is orange, yellow, a pink. So that's how I figure out what I'm going to use. I pull some out from the drawers. Mm-hmm.
As you're doing that, I'm trying to. So you have this image in your mind of something you want to create, and you're not quite sure what color, and then you just kind of pull the paper out. Do you know, the minute you touch that purple piece of paper, yes, this is what I'm going to use for the dress. So this is what I'm going to use.
Yeah, that's a good observation. It's almost almost an automatic pilot. It's kind of I work intuitively. So I actually picture it in my mind first. I think, oh, this should be a cool, use this color with this color. And then I pull it out of my drawers, or I put them together to see, once again, does this click? Does this feel right? And so that's how I work. I mean, that's how I cook too. Like, oh, I think this needs a little more basil in it. It's just like something just rises up.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I work. I'm not real like left brain. Yes, really organized. I work more intuitively. And that's the fun of doing art, is that first, you visualize it in your mind, and it's how well you can translate that to your two-dimensional work. That makes a successful illustration.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's different steps to it.
I'm thinking that cut paper art, or the techniques that you're describing, I think that'd be a really kind of a fun project for a family to do, especially after reading a book like Summer Stroll in the City together. Parents oftentimes complain, oh, my kid wants me to read the book for the 500th time. You don't have to read it the same way 500 times. You can read it in a different way. And then even I would suggest you sit down and create your own kind of sequel to Summer Stroll in the City, and you and your kids create your own cut paper art of a trip that you may take into your city or your town or on vacation.
I love it, especially now when their kids have so much screen time. To work with their hands and their eyes and working with the family. So much fun. It's so good for everybody.
Yeah.
It makes memories, and it makes a finished piece of art.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's, one of the things that I think maybe I forgot. I knew when my kids were younger how important it was for me to read with my kids and all the benefits. But sometimes I wouldn't remember that, hey, the same kind of benefits can happen when I'm cooking with my kids, or sitting down and drawing, or creating a cut paper piece of art together with my kids.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that family time, being creative together is so important. And people are so busy these days, and, it's a triumph when the whole family can sit down at the supper table together
Mm-hmm.
and eat together.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard these days.
Yeah. And eat together without a device being on.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. And we're not just talking about the phones. We're talking about the TV playing in the background, or the radio playing. Just come together, sit down, and truly be with each other. Be there, listening, sharing, and even just being quiet and enjoying the meal together.
Connecting, yeah. And I always loved reading, and I always loved it when my mom would sit down with me in a book. And that was like one of my favorite things growing up. That and bicycling to the library to fill up my bicycle basket with a mound of books. I've always loved books. I am a bookie. I love them. They open up worlds.
It does.
It's amazing, easy to carry, and you open up the book and you're transfixed into this like another world.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'm going to take this chance. It's my podcast, so I can take advantage here. My beautiful wife just retired after teaching in the Boston Public Schools for 34 years, and she's doing something now that she always kind of dreamed of doing, and she kind of played with, but she always loved the idea of being an artist, and she considered studying it in college, but went a different way. So now she's taking a watercolor class, and she really loves it. But oftentimes she will come in and she's like, "Well, this isn't very good, but I'm having fun doing it." What advice can you give to my beautiful wife and anybody else who is just kind of starting their own journey in art?
Oh, I think that's fabulous. Yes. everybody needs a creative outlet. And now that her schedule has opened up for her, that's a dream come true. That is a real blessing. So yeah, go to workshops. It's nice doing things online if you can't. That's available to everybody. But to actually be there in person and watch a wash, water with some color on it. You apply it to paper with a brush and it kind of like spreads out. It's magical. It is magical. And there's that sense of accomplishment and just inspiration is really, you get inspired by your own activity. You're creating your own happiness that way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why creativity, we should always follow up with that no matter what. But there's so much, out there as far as workshops go and, locally that, I encourage her. That's fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there, a favorite medium for you to work in?
Oh, gee. See, I work in all different kinds of media. I love to mix things together. So if I do some collage, maybe I'll add some paint to it. Or in this series, I didn't, but I have. So like when I can mix things together, acrylic and colored pencil, printing, I've done all that. So my favorite media is the media I use at that moment.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a great answer, and I think it's something we should keep in mind. My favorite thing is kind of what I'm doing at this moment.
Right. Yeah, because then when we're doing something we're really enjoy, we're focused on, we're really present. We're really present in that moment. Where all our senses are afire. We're just open. So, yeah. That's the key.
Yeah. I think you kind of hit on something that makes creating art so special, because we really do have to be present. We have to be in the moment. We have to let go of the worries and the concerns and the plans and the regrets and just kind of be right there in the moment, you and your art, you and the book that you're writing, you and the song, you and the magic that you're creating.
That's right. That's what happens. Because if you do start to get distracted, your mind wanders, you have a oops moment, like, uh-oh. But it's so charming to do it that I find that I don't get as distracted. This is what I should be doing. Yeah. So I do tend to focus a lot on what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. More than other things. Like, if I'm like, have to do my bills, it's so easy every month. Yeah, it's easy for my mind to wander. Like, oops, I got to finish this.
Well, you remind me of a moment that I had on stage. It was many, many years ago. It was kind of, I'd been doing magic for maybe 5 or 6 years full time. And so going out there doing lots and lots of shows. And I remember being in a school and being in front of 600 or 700 kids and being amazed that I was kind of doing the show, and I was able to kind of step back out of my body, and I was kind of watching myself on stage, and it was automatic, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But meanwhile, I'm thinking, what am I going to get for lunch, and where do I have to drive after this? And I was amazed and horrified, because it's like, I can do this. And then I said, yeah, but I really shouldn't be doing this. I should be right there in with the kids in experiencing that moment, not worrying about lunch and not worrying about where I'm going to go next, and just be there in the moment. And so I trained myself to do that. And what a difference.
What a difference.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's such a connection. If we're not focused, there is a disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't even put your whole self into it. You don't feel anything. You've got to feel something
Mm-hmm.
when you're focused into connecting with what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Otherwise, follow.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's hollow when we're not there. And I know that my art was much better when I was fully present. And it's obvious that you are fully present when you're creating art for Summer Stroll in the City. There's great connections. Even just like, as I said, the families at the Florida Homeschool Convention, when they saw your book and saw the colors on the table, you could tell there was a smile, connection, like, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So we're really happy about that. Yeah. Hey, Melanie, tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Summer Stroll in the City and find out more about you, please.
Okay, so you can Google it, Summer Stroll in the City, and it's available many different outlets, Amazon, Familius. So just Google. That's the easiest way to do it. Summer Stroll in the City, and it'll come right up, and you can buy it online.
Awesome. We've had a fantastic time speaking about art, about connections, and about the beautiful board book, Summer Stroll in the City, from our guest, the illustrator of the book, Melanie Hall. Hey, Melanie, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Jed. It's so good seeing you, and I'll see you next time with my next book.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Dr. Sidney Thompson. He'll be here to celebrate his new middle grade novel. It's called Kudzo's Enormous New Life. That is the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Hey, we would love it if you would connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Reading With Your Kids on TikTok, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. We would love for you to join us on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. You can also use the contact button at the top of the page to let us know what we're doing well here in the podcast. Let us know what we could be doing better. And let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Melanie Hall. Please be sure to check out A Summer Stroll in the City. It's a beautiful board book published by our friends at Familius Publishing. Also want to thank Leah Fisher. Be sure to check out The Cryptid Catcher. And we want to thank our friend Teresa Robeson. Be sure to check out Two Bicycles in Beijing. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Nicole Belcastro, Ashley Contouras, Mirabella Q. I got the name right. Sorry, Mirabella Q. Rain Pan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.